Hello students, today's lesson is about question types in English. And this lesson concerns the class of terminal A, C, D, T, E, but can also be extended to other classes. Asking good questions is very important in many communication situations, like during a job interview, asking for a way to a place, asking your friend or family about important information, and so on and so forth. There are many types of questions, but today we will focus on two types: yes and no questions, WH or open-ended questions, and we will also make a quick mention of tag questions that we will develop in future videos. Let us get started. In the first part, we are going to tackle yes-no questions. These questions can be answered simply with yes or no. You can develop if after that you have some other information to add. They are also very common in professional and daily life. Let us see the structure of the yes and no questions. It is structured in such a way that we have the auxiliary verb plus the subject plus the main verb, and you continue with the rest of the sentence and the question mark at the end. But it is very important to understand that there are two main categories of verbs. We have the auxiliary verbs, that are the verbs to be, have, or modal verbs such as will, can, may, should, shall, etc. And on the other side, we have content verbs. Content verbs are any other verb that are not auxiliary verbs. These are the verbs like work, write, sing, work, and so on and so forth. The creation of interrogative sentence differ from sentences where we have auxiliaries and where we have content verb. Let's go with the question formation first, starting with the sentence having content verb. When the question contains a content verb that is not the verb to be or to have or not a modal verb, we must use the auxiliary do, does, or did as the auxiliary before the subject, then the content verb after the subject. These are some examples. And when we have the sentence with an auxiliary verb, you need to put it right at the beginning of the question. You need to put that auxiliary at the beginning of the question, like the examples that we have below. Are you ready for this journey? Can you work under pressure? You see, are, that is the auxiliary to be. Can is the modal auxiliary. And that is different from what we had above, where we have do you get any experience? Did you work during the holidays? We have do and did because the verbs are content verb, like the first, that is get, and the second, work. In the second part, we have WH questions, and it is also what we call the open-ended questions. These questions start with a question word and ask for specific information, and the answer of this is not just a yes or a no. The question words are who, what, where, when, which, how, and any other derivative of how, like how many, how much, how long, how far, and so on and so forth. In terms of structure, the question formed for WH question, that is open-ended question, we have the WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the main verb, and you continue with the rest. But take care, if you see on the screen, there are two boxes that are in green color. That is to explain that before the auxiliary, just after the WH word, it is possible that we add something like an extra information if there is need in the sentence. And also, you see the second box that is green is the main verb. It is also possible that we have or we do not have the main verb in the case that the auxiliary is not accompanying any other verb, like who are you. And for the extra word that can or cannot be added just after the WH word is like an example where we can have, which of the trees will you cut to make a way to your home, for example. But here are some examples that can give you better understanding. What are your strengths? So here you see we have the WH word, we have the auxiliary, we have the subject, but we don't have any main verb after the subject. But the second example where we have, why do you want this job? As we have the verb want, that is a content verb. We have used do, which is an auxiliary before the subject, and after the subject, that is you, we have added the main verb, that is want. Another example is, where did you study? The next example is, how do you solve problems at work? And the last one is where we have the extra word, like which car did you choose for your journey? Notice that the auxiliary do, does, did is still used when the question contains a normal content verb. For example, we have, what subject do you like? Where did you work last year? Because of the verb like in the first example and the verb work in the second example, we have used do and did respectively. Next is the tag questions, but as we said, we are not going to tackle it exhaustively here because we are going to have another lesson for that. A tag question is when we add a short question at the end of a statement, usually to confirm information. For example, you studied English for 7 years, didn't you? That is just to confirm. You can say, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. Second example, you can start immediately. Can you? That is to find out if you can start right now, or if you can't. This is the role of the tag question, but for the structure and any other tips, we are going to handle that in future videos. So we studied 3 types of questions. Yes, no question, that are with short answers with yes or no, using do, does, or did with the content verb. We have also studied WH question, which are open-ended question, that are starting with WH words like why, how, what, which, and so on. And also we have talked briefly about tag question, which are short confirmations at the end of a sentence, which we will study in details later. Thank you very much for listening, for watching this video. We hope we are going to be together in the next one.